and welcome to a special edition of The Girls. We have a very favorite friend of ours, John Keegan, as our guest host today, and we're going to be cooking up something good in the kitchen with you, aren't we, John?
I think we're going to try to work on it anyway.
Yeah, we've been wanting to do this for a long time, right?
Yes.
We've been trying to get into this kitchen, and if you look around, it is magnificent. I can't wait to talk about all of the nice food that you have whipped up for us today.
Oh my goodness.
Well, first off, I made brajol.
Okay.
And I did a traditional Italian dish called minestrone. We'll talk about my variation. I did some potato balls, some meatballs, and finally we did haddock with shrimp and langostinos.
Is that it?
Wow.
That's...
It's a typical Italian meal. Is that it? Whether you have
Well, I was
4
keeping it
people
in the-
or 40 people, you make the same amount.
Exactly. And with the theme that it's a Christmas time, so let's make it as if it would be a holiday meal.
Good.
Well, every day's a holiday with you because I follow you on Facebook and you're always posting all the food that you're making. And of course, I don't get to Facebook sometimes until 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then I'm starving for your food. So I'm known to go in the kitchen and try to whip something up there. But if you don't have smell-o-vision, you're missing out. If you do have smell-o-vision, turn it on because it smells like the best Italian restaurant in the world in here. And you have all the beautiful cheeses and ingredients and whatever. So you're going to not only tell us how you made your food today, but you're going to give us a lot of insight and little tips on things, aren't you?
Yes, we're going to try to, things I've learned along the way, being a home cook.
You're a home cook. You're not only, you're not a professional cook, as you just mentioned, you're a pharmacist by trade. So you're always whipping up
A cook by night.
prescription meds for people, but then you have prescription food for us too, because you're a real foodie. When did you get into the foodie stuff?
I actually started when I was about 22. I went to my grandmother and I told her that her daughter's sauce didn't cut it.
Oh.
And
Wow, that was great.
sorry, Mom.
That was great.
But that's the true story. And I said, would you show me how to make sauce? And we'll talk about sauce versus gravy. And she did. And that started it. And then, of course, going to college, you had to learn how to fend for yourself.
Right.
And
No
I was
ramen
in
noodles for you.
Philadelphia. No, I don't even understand today how they like ramen noodles.
Macaroni and cheese and a cup and ramen noodles. That's what they eat.
But, you know, going to Temple, we had the Philadelphia market. So
Oh,
I would
yes.
go down and, you know, we got an actual turkey. We got to see the turkey before we bought it. And
Meet your meal.
we had a Thanksgiving dinner. I have to say the stuffing was terrible. That
Well,
was all
you-
on me.
well,
but
you've come a long way.
I've improved that a lot.
Yeah, you've come a long way from them, but you know, you really have a great sense for various kinds of foods, and as people are going to see today when you're watching, you know all the fine details and how to just tweak it just so, and also tips for how other people can make it be their particular own taste as well.
Exactly. One of the problems I have is everybody wants a recipe on the internet, and they don't realize that I don't use recipes. I have cabinets full of seasonings and sauces and whatever, and I read a lot, different magazines, Bon Appetit, Food and Wine, Cooks Illustrated, and it just gives you, like you said, the concept. And everybody puts their own touch. You know, we could ask, what's your Sunday sauce like? And there's going to be 10 different ways that people make it.
Well, my
Right,
touch for
exactly.
today is that we brought a bottle of wine. I didn't make it, but we bought it from Frey's Winery, where we were just at in Berwick. So we have some wine for you to complement some of the meals that you are going to see on today's show. And we also brought you a one-of-a-kind girls apron.
That's awesome.
So
Thank
that's
you so
for
much.
you. You don't have to wear it now if you don't want to, but that's for you for later.
And your sous chef, I know that your wife Alita is a very lucky girl because
there you go.
she has a husband who loves to cook. So if you have a husband who loves to cook, what do? She's your sous chef.
Well,
So
she
easy
does.
for
She
me to
helps
say.
out. She helps out a lot. I do the main dishes. She does a lot of sides. But I have to tell you, she has her own dishes that are phenomenal. Particularly her homemade ravioli, homemade pierogi, and chicken marsala. That she got the recipe from a dear friend, and it is just wonderful.
So we'll be visiting back again. This will be our first meal here.
How about it? We'll eat our way through the holidays. Well, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and
And to
I'm
you as
hoping that
well.
everyone stays with us here on our special edition of The Girls during this holiday season. You're watching us here on SSP TV. When we come back, we're going to cook with Chef John Keegan.
Welcome back to the Girls Holiday Special. We're here with our special guest in his home, in his state-of-the-art kitchen, John Foodie Keegan. And you're going to teach us some great things about all this wonderful food that you made, aren't you?
Well, we're going to talk about a few dishes and what I do, why I do it, and what I've learned along the way.
All right, well, what do we have up first? I see a nice slab of meat here.
Well, we're going to make brajol. Naturally, because of the show, we've pre-made some, but I wanted to show you how we do it from the start. One of the things I want to talk about is if you actually see this piece of meat, there's a slight discoloration on this side. And what that, people, when they're shopping, they believe that that means the meat is bad. And it actually doesn't mean that. It means that the protein called myoglobin has been deprived of oxygen. So it just starts to color.
So that's maybe where the meat was folded over.
Right,
Piece of
you know,
meat.
in the case, the
Okay.
lights, all that kind of thing. So it really isn't something to concern yourself with.
Oh, all right, that's good to know.
What I tell people is more go with the smell. You know, you know how it is.
You
can-
know what bad meat smells like.
exactly.
Exactly. Okay.
One of the things I do, everybody makes a filling different for brajol. I like using seasoned breadcrumbs and panko seasoned breadcrumbs. Okay, because the panko is a little thicker, not as fine as traditional breadcrumbs. So it's more as if you were getting bread and breaking it down in your food processor. And one of the other things I like to do is I like to toast it first before I put it in there, because as you toast the breadcrumbs, you get all that smell and it brings out a little bit more flavor. I add a little bit of cheese during the toasting process, and I also add some light cream to it. Some people I know use egg. You know, it's all your personal taste and flavors, how you want to do it.
Okay, so you're spooning that mixture that you're telling us about onto, what kind of meat is this? Is this round meat?
This is actually
Round
a
steak?
bottom round.
A bottom round, and it's been pounded thin. You bought it like that in the store?
Bought it like that, did not
Okay.
have to pound it at all.
Super.
And then what I do is I take a little bit of Romano cheese, and I've gone to, now this is Locatelli Romano, but I've gone to buying wedges of Romano and breaking them down in my food processor so that the pungency is very apparent. And that's what's going on here with this Asiago cheese. And if you take notice, the Asiago has
It smells delicious.
well, it not only smells delicious, but you see that it doesn't break down as fine.
Right, it's
as
nice
the
big
Romano.
crumbles, so you could get a nice big chunk of it when you take a piece.
Exactly, you know, you get to eat that along the way. And I like to throw in a little bit of baby spinach.
Oh, that's interesting.
You
I
know,
thought it was basil.
Just a little different. Well, the basil you're smelling is over by the sink, so that's where you're getting that dish from. And
So
then
the spinach.
I fold it over, wrap it, and I call it the bulldozer to try to just keep it going on. And then anything that falls out, I pick up and just
Shove back
Put it
in.
on the
shove it
tail
right
end.
back
There you
in
go.
on the tail end, so that we don't miss anything. Now, this is one part where I do it different than others. I like to use a toothpick to keep it together, because the toothpick's easy to find. There's a commercial product out there where they use a fine string. When you go to serve it, you start pulling it, and the brajol starts spinning around.
Yeah, it sort of like cooks into the meat, doesn't it?
It does. And I feel that this is too small of a piece of meat to use string. So I've used toothpicks, and you'll see them, they survive the cooking process. And then it's easy just to pull it out at the end and serve.
And done.
So what we do is
By the magic of TV.
by the magic of TV, we can take it and we put it in, I put it in a pan, and I like to brown it first before I put it in the sauce. It takes maybe total of 4 minutes or so to brown up. And then I put it in the sauce. And that's one thing that we want to talk about, sauce versus gravy. Okay?
Yeah.
We're talking the red tomato sauce.
Right, the red tomato sauce, which is right here.
Okay.
Right.
Okay? That's what I call sauce. There's no meat in it. This was made before I put the brajol into the foil pans and baked it in the oven for about 2.5 hours at 350 degrees, so that it softens up the meat while it's cooking, because it's a bottom round. It's a tougher piece of meat. I feel that gravy is what comes out of the oven with the brajol.
Gotcha.
After you put the meat in it, then
What
you
do we-
have a
what do we
gravy.
put
Meat
gravy
has
on?
gravy.
Meat.
Right.
Right. And the sauce does
The
not have
sauce.
any meat.
Now, my wife makes an excellent vodka sauce. She'll start off with a sauce like this and turn it into vodka sauce, and it's just fantastic.
That's saucy sauce with the vodka.
But again, there's no meat involved in the process, and you
gonna
can
go
hear
check
that.
the
You
brajol.
can hear that brajol. You can turn that whenever
Oh,
you're
nice.
ready, and that's it. You just
Nice.
cook it, and then when it's done, I took a piece out of the oven, and
Very
I cut
nice.
it, and you could see how it came.
Perfect.
And it's fork tender. You could take, I used a knife, and I actually had trouble cutting it to keep it in the shape.
So
Now-
you don't have the brajol in the pot. You put it in a nice
I put-
Pyrex dish, so it's like individual.
Right, and the
Okay.
reason I do that is because the pots are tall, they're slender, and you know how it is when you're cooking tomatoes? The solid part tends to go to the bottom, and then if you aren't watching it, it'll burn.
Yeah.
Well, when you put this in the oven, that won't happen.
Okay.
It just cooks, and it just creates a nice sauce, and the meat flavor comes out in it. One of the little tricks that I do is I like to use country-style pork ribs and just put them raw right in the sauce and
Now,
get
is
that
this-
additional pork flavor.
Is this considered a meal or an appetizer?
Yeah, that could be a side dish, or it could be a
A meal.
because then you'd have the pasta or
Okay.
whatever you want to make with it.
So there's one, you learned about the sauces right now. And then
Right.
our next is, let's talk about the
We'll talk about the meatballs.
and the potato.
Potato balls.
We'll get to the
balls.
potato balls.
Some people might not even know what a
These-
potato ball is.
These meatballs, yeah, there you go.
I'm going to
You
sneak
could
back and just keep turning
yeah,
this
you
around.
could-
I'm on
Let me get
brajol
rid of
duty.
this. The meatballs, I use a beef and pork mixture.
Okay.
Some people add veal. But again, I use seasoned panko breadcrumbs. I don't put egg in. I use extra virgin olive oil.
Oh, that's a good tip.
There's
Okay.
a tip. I'm going to try
And why
that.
is
'cause I
that?
use
What's the
egg.
switch off? What's the swap
I
for?
believe you're getting a little bit of that flavor in it. It's enhancing it. Most people think the egg binds it, but as you could see, it's
Yeah,
not
it is.
necessary.
Well, I think the breadcrumbs find
And
it.
the breadcrumbs do, so you don't need the egg to add to the breadcrumbs.
Look at me.
Listen
I
to
like
Janine.
making meatballs.
Actually learning how to make.
I like making
Not the great-
meatballs. Don't tell anyone. Yes, I am. I
Oh,
don't
well,
like
she's
to cook.
beginning
I'm a good cook.
There you go.
When I cook.
Exactly. And
Well,
I'm over here bathing this.
In addition, there you go. In addition, I add Romano cheese, and in these meatballs, I added the Asiago cheese to give an enhanced flavor.
So yummy.
All these
So
cheeses.
delicious.
Now you have a special salt out here. You have a fine, all-natural sea salt. Do you salt your food? Everybody has their own way of
Right,
cooking. Do you put it in there?
I usually, and I didn't do that, I usually salt the brajol, pepper, and a little bit of garlic powder.
Garlic powder.
Okay, and sometimes, actually, I discovered this today. They call this pizza garlic
Ah,
because of the way the grind is on it.
Okay.
It's nice and coarse.
In a store I was at today, they call it pizza garlic.
I'm going to stop you right there. For your seasonings, because you're big on the whole seasoning,
Mm-hmm.
is there a difference in brand for you?
Not so much.
Okay.
I mean, it might be the seasoning itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have minced garlic, you have garlic powder, you have granulated garlic, and then you have garlic salt.
Right.
So it all depends on what you want to do with it.
So there's a
in my
difference there,
mind.
but not in
Right.
kind of,
You know, this is, I don't know whose brand this is, but
okay. So you can get those anywhere.
I'm going to stop you right there because
Okay.
we're going to go out to break while we're browning off the brajol. We've browned off the meatballs. When we come back, we're going to do potato balls. We're going to see some
We're gonna do some fish.
minestrone. Oh my
Great,
gosh.
minestrone.
Oh, we have a lot to do. So
John, but-
stay with us. When you come back, we're going to see more of John Keegan's cooking. Welcome back to the girls. We're with John Keegan in his kitchen. We're cooking up a storm here. You saw the first course of what we made, Janine,
Yeah.
and now we have the minestrone. That's your, excuse me, the minestre.
Minestre.
A lot of people will call it a soup, but John, if you could please describe and tell people what is minestre.
Well, minestre is an old Italian dish that is based on escarole, some kind of pasta. In this case, we use beans. My grandmother would use dark red kidney beans. I'm using white cannellini beans, pancetta, and fried potatoes.
Right, and it's not soupy at all. It's more just
Right.
fried.
Some of the traditional recipes, they'll add chicken stock to it to give it that soupy flavor. This is what escarole looks like. And basically, I boil it for about 5 to 7 minutes, take it out, strain it, and then I add it to the dish as we go along. I start off with the pancetta first, and then the potatoes, actually I did those in the oven first before I put them in the pan to fry them up. And then added the beans, escarole, and a little bit of garlic.
All right, so is this your grandmom's recipe? We know we don't have recipes, but is this her way?
A little bit of this and a little bit of that.
This is it's not her recipe because my grandmother was a pinch of this and a pinch of that.
That's my
So
grandma,
I
too.
watched her how she made it, and my mother would make it too. And it's just something that I developed along the way, reading about minestre. That's a topic all in itself because minestre actually means with pasta or rice, and zuppa means with bread.
Zupas with bread.
So
I knew that.
it gets to that sauce gravy kind of thing where we talk and we interchange terms, and so people think zuppa sounds like soup. Well, they're both ideally soups. I'm not putting the broth in.
Gotcha.
But one's based on pasta and one's based on bread.
Something else you
And they're
learned
all
today.
good because that's the only kind of food that you know how to make. It tastes so good.
All of your food looks so flavorful and so full of color and alive. I love that about it. When you're making all of these meals at one time, do you cook them all at one time or do you have to start separately? How do you time everything out?
I plan on what I'm going to do that day. First off, I go shopping previous to that, usually in the morning.
Okay.
And I decide as I'm shopping what I'm going to make that day.
Okay.
It's funny, I get people walking up to me in the supermarket. So what are you making today? Well, I haven't decided yet. I have to see what's out there,
See what's the freshest.
what we're going to do, what's available. And
You're an artist with the cooking.
so then I start thinking about, well, what are the steps that we're going to need? Like when I was doing the brajol, naturally making the sauce was the first thing because once I was done with the brajol, I needed the sauce. So I started with the sauce first, did the brajol, knew that was going to be in the oven 2.5 hours, so that gave me time to make everything else.
Well, that was in the oven. Okay, so it's strategic planning here.
Right.
Strategic
All right, so now you
planning.
mentioned something before that you have here called potato balls.
These
a lot
are
of
my
people may not
favorite.
be familiar with them. Some people know potato pancakes.
Right.
But the Italians, especially in our family, and we are related.
Right.
Your grandmother was my husband's father's sister.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're cousins, we're all cousins. You live in Hazleton, you're cousins.
Mm-hmm.
They're related.
Tell us your version of potato balls.
Well,
because
this is
everybody
like
makes
making a
their own little
meatball, again, with the breadcrumbs and the
Panko.
cheeses.
Panko breadcrumbs.
Panko. Actually, in this one, I'm going to surprise you. I use regular breadcrumbs because
Regular
I didn't want the grittiness coming out because of the mashed potatoes. And the secret really is trying to get it, and even I still think I didn't get it all there, so that the potato doesn't fall apart when you're frying it. And I did roll these in the breadcrumbs after I was done, fried them off. And it's what you do with leftover mashed potatoes. You know,
It's funny because my grandmother, my mama, before she passed away, I asked her how I would make these, and she's going, same as your grandmother, take a pinch of this, you take a splash of that. Oh, do I use a cup? Do I use a bowl? Do I use a pinch of it? It was
It's
crazy.
all in the feel.
She said
It
she
is.
has to see the texture of it, and it was so
Even when you're
interesting
rolling
to
the
see how
meatball.
she makes them.
The amount of breadcrumbs, you'll feel it when you're rolling the meatball.
Yeah.
You know, you'll know it. And I make sure that I use a metal bowl, and I know when nothing is sticking to the metal bowl that we're
Everyone has their
there.
That's
you
where
know?
the love part
Procedure.
comes in. It's the love, you could feel it.
Right.
And you have another dish over here,
This yum yum?
surprisingly.
What we did was what I did here was haddock loins.
Look at that.
I sauteed them in the pan. I seasoned them, one seasoning on one side and another seasoning on the other.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I like to do that to mix flavors.
All right. I love fish. I love fish.
And then I had shrimp and langostinos, and I developed a sauce with white wine. And this is a little trick I use. I don't want to open up a full bottle of wine because I'm not going to drink it. So I've gone to buying, these come in a 4-pack at the liquor store.
I'll drink it for you.
And
We have no
this
problem
way,
finish the bottle, we're good.
I'll finish the bottle off in the dish, and the oxygen won't get to it later on, and won't make it, won't destroy the wine.
So what is your
That's
sauce
a
made
very
out
good
of?
tip.
So this is butter, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, some smoked paprika. To thicken it up, I used chicken broth
Broth, okay.
and cornstarch.
Nice.
And there's some blackened seasoning in there. There's some seasonal in there, and then there's a seafood seasoning in there that I use.
There's a lot of, so fish you really have to season well.
Right.
Tell us the difference between a shrimp and a langoustine.
Yes.
Well, it's what it looks like.
They're
The
little.
langoustine is really like a crawfish kind of.
They're little babies.
Yeah, they are. It's totally different. If you saw the head on the shrimp, you'd definitely see the difference in what you're buying.
Very nice.
Do you like using frozen shrimp, clean shrimp? What kind of shrimp do you look
Well,
for?
this is a friend of mine. We get into this discussion. He calls me Frozen Johnny. But I tell him when he goes to the shore and he catches the tuna and he brings it back, it's 135 pounds. What does it end up being?
Yes.
Frozen. Mm-hmm. Most of the fish we're buying is frozen.
Frozen.
They take it in the case, and they in the deli case you'll see it that it looks fresh, but it's really been previously frozen, and they just let it thaw and prepare itself. Basically, what I look for when I buy something like that, I pray that it's actually slightly still frozen because it hasn't started to turn at all.
Right, so you have more time with it.
I try to look for that when I'm buying it in the case, or else
Another tip.
if I buy it frozen, then naturally you let it thaw in the refrigerator overnight.
All right,
Very
well, our
good.
time has flown by,
Yes.
John, and I want to
Thank you
give a
so
toast
much.
to you and your family.
Yes.
For the holidays. Wish you a very Merry Christmas. Thank
Merry,
you for
Merry
Merry
having us
Christmas
Christmas.
to
in
all
your
of you.
home.
Merry Christmas,
If
and
you
Merry
want to see
Christmas to
any
everyone.
of John's, thank you, John. If you'd like to see any of John's food, you could go and look on our girls' Facebook page. You could check us out on ssptv.com. Watch us everywhere, and I'm sure we're going to be back in the kitchen cooking with you. So here's to
All
you and your
right,
family.
cheers.
Okay, cheers.
To a very nice
Cheers.
holiday and a happy new year. Thanks for watching our special edition of The Girls.